Hi, I'm Catherine Yael Sirota, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Asheville Storytelling Circle Spring Show, Once Upon a Fairy Tale. I'm standing here in Jack's Natural Playground, right off Interstate 26 in Unicoi, Tennessee. We are in the Cherokee National Forest at the Pinnacle Mountain Trailhead. And the locals call this area the Valley Beautiful because it really is. One of the features of this area is the Storybook Trail right off the playground, where you can find stories of the buffalo paths over the mountains, the ways in which the earliest settlers used plants and wildlife, and the Pinnacle Mountain Fire Tower. You could almost write your own stories here. You could almost imagine giants and heroes and Indians and animals that talk as you wander these paths. Well, let's get started with Storytime, shall we? Our first teller is David Novak, who has won all sorts of awards. He has told in Jonesboro, Tennessee, right down the road, and he's won awards for excellence in theatrical production and storytelling. David is bringing us two wonderful tales about friendship. Have you ever been tempted to maybe change yourself a little bit to make friends? Or have you ever wondered how dog became man's best friend? Well, here's David to answer these questions and more.
It is said that dog is man's best friend. And indeed, dog was the first of the wild animals to come and befriend the people. The people welcomed dog in and let dog sleep by their fire, eat scraps from their tables, and play with their children. And the people loved dog, and dog loved the people. And it was a good friendship. But other animals were watching. And some of them saw that friendship and thought, that looks like a good friendship. We would like to be friends with the people. Maybe you know how that feels. Maybe you have watched good friends laughing and playing and having a good time together and stood aside and thought, gee, I wish I could be their friend too. If you know how that feels, you understand why these animals thought, we should go and be friends with the people too. And so they came to the people, hoping people would take them in and love them the way the people loved dog. The only problem was, these animals were the snakes. Snakes wanted the friendship of the people. And so they came right up to the people, hoping people would love them, like they loved dog. But you know what people did when they saw all those, ew, snakes! Hit them with a broom, smush them, kill them, yuck! Why, the people beat the snakes and sent the snakes away, and the snakes said, whee! People don't like us. Why? And then the snakes began to think, maybe we snakes aren't pretty enough for the people. For they noticed how people came in all different colors. Snakes thought, maybe we should too. So the snakes decided that they would make themselves prettier for the people. They got paint and they painted themselves many different colors. Some snakes made themselves bright green. Other snakes made themselves deep indigo. Some snakes painted pretty different colored rings all the lengths of their bodies, and other snakes painted pretty diamond patterns down their backs. And when the snakes had finished painting themselves in these pretty ways, they came again to the people, hoping now, perhaps, people would love these prettily painted snakes. But you know what people did? When they saw all those snakes, ew, hit them with a broom, smush them, kill them, yuck! Why, again, the people beat the snakes and sent the snakes away, and again the snakes said, whee! People don't like us. Why? Then the snakes thought, maybe we're not fashionable enough for the people. They noticed how people were always changing their clothes and adding things like rings and bows and hoods and capes. Snakes thought, we need those things too. So the snakes decided to make themselves more fashionable for the people. And the first thing they did was to give themselves many different changes of skin to wear. Some snakes made themselves long and fat. Other snakes made themselves short and thin. Some snakes gave themselves musical rattles to shake. Other snakes made broad hoods to wear about their heads. And when they had finished dressing themselves up in these many fashionable ways, the snakes went again to the people to win their friendship and to be sure the people would see them. Snakes went everywhere people might wander. Some snakes went into the grass. Other snakes went under the water. Some snakes went under rocks and logs, and other snakes went up into the branches of the trees. Some snakes were so bold as to drape themselves from the rafters of barns and stables of the people, and other snakes stretched themselves across the sunny footpaths that people would walk upon, so people would be sure to see them and love them. But you know what people did when they saw all those snakes? Hit them with a broom, smush them, kill them, yuck! Why, again they beat the snakes and sent the snakes away, and again the snakes said, wah! People don't like us. Why? Now at this point, as you can understand, some of the snakes said, that's it. If they do not like us the way that we are, we no longer want their friendship. And those snakes remain the way they were and are still that way to this day. But some snakes said, wait a minute. You know, it may be that if you want someone's friendship, you must make an effort to understand them. And those snakes went back to the people, not to impress them, not to surprise them, but to watch them and to listen and to try to understand why people don't like snakes. And they heard things like, "Ah, my goodness, I just saw a snake and I've got to stop and catch my breath because I don't like snakes. Oh, no. You know why I don't like snakes? Well, I'm going to tell you even if you don't want to know. I don't like snakes because they got that slimy, scaly skin all over. Oh, makes my skin crawl just to think about it. It's not natural. No, I mean to tell you, other animals have got feather or fur or shell or things like that to cover themselves up with, but not the snake. Snakes go crawling around on their bellies all naked. It's indecent.
Yeah, well, I don't like them snakes neither. But the reason I don't like them snakes there is because they got them venomous fangs there sticking out of their mouth there like that right there. I mean to tell you, you come upon one of them snakes and he bites you, you swell up and die. It's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah, well, I don't like a snake either, because and everything, you know, and all that, because of snake and everything, because you know why? I don't like a snake, because they got them forked tongues in their mouth, and they're all pointy and owie looking and everything, and they're always sticking it out at you, going, meh, 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 meh. And my mommy told me, you're not supposed to stick out your tongue, because that's rude.
No, actually, the problem with a snake is quite simply this. Snakes have not got any ears. So naturally, if you're walking along a path and you come upon a snake, the snake is startled and it bites you. It didn't hear you coming.
Oh no, that's not the problem with the snake. The problem with the snake is that they're all just one long tail and all they ever do is wiggle around. I mean, other animals have got arms or legs or wings or things like that. Snakes need those things too.
Well, now the snakes knew why people did not like them. And oh, my friends, it can be hard to hear what someone thinks of you. But they listened, and they knew what they must do if they still wanted the friendship of the people. They remembered people did not like that slimy, scaly skin, so they covered themselves over with soft, warm fur. And there they were, long, furry tails. Well, people didn't like the fact that they were just all tail, So they gave themselves 4 sturdy legs to stand upon. And there they were, long furry tails on legs. People wanted them to have ears, so they fashioned little pointy ears to wear on either side of their flat, snaky heads. People didn't like the venom in their fangs, so they took the venom out. And then they fused their forked tongue into a round, fat, and lovable tongue. And when they had finished disguising themselves in these many ways, they came again to the people, hoping perhaps now the people might see them and love them. And do you know what people did when they saw all those... Look! It's a pretty little kitty cat. Meow, meow, meow. And to this day, the cat is one of the best loved pets among the people, right alongside dogs. And to this day, few people stop to notice how still that tail is always wiggling and whipping around. And few people stop to notice how cats, just like snakes, love to stretch out in the warm sun, to drink milk, and to catch mice. And few people stop to notice how still cats, just like snakes, will be heard to when they're angry, and still they are constantly sticking out their tongue. But if you gently take a cat in your arms, and you tenderly pin back its ears and stretch back its fur, you can still see the flat, snaky head and the glowing serpent eyes of a snake in disguise. Long ago, in the wilds of Africa, along the Congo River, there lived 2 close animal friends. They were Woof, the dog, and Rawr, the jackal. Now, jackal was a wild dog-like animal, and because dog and jackal were so closely related, they were best friends. Woof, rawr. They did everything together. They would hunt together. They would eat together. Burp, rawr. They would drink together. And late at night, they'd find a dry place to curl up and fall asleep together. And in this way, dog and jackal were best friends. But the world started changing. The days grew shorter and shorter, and the world got colder and colder, and there were fewer and fewer animals for dog and jackal to hunt. And so every night, dog and jackal had to curl up to sleep, getting colder and hungrier. And at about this time, dog started to complain, the way dogs do. And this started to bother his friend, the jackal. What are you making all that noise for, dog? I am trying to sleep down here in case you haven't noticed. Oh, I'm sorry, jackal. I said I'm so cold and I'm so hungry. I can't sleep. Yeah, well, I'm cold and hungry too. But you don't hear me crying about it. Now go to sleep. Cry, baby. Oh, all right, I'll be as quiet as I can. You better. I hear that. Oh, I'm sorry. Good night. Well, one night, dog was tossing and turning and trying to sleep. He smelled some smoke. Smoke! Must be a fire nearby. Oh boy! Wouldn't it be great if we could go to that fire and get warm and cozy, and then we could sleep better, and I could be warm by the fire, and we could be warm by, oh, that'd be great. Hey, what did you wake me up for this time? What is it now, dog? Oh, I'm sorry, Jackal. It's just that, smell the air. What do you smell, huh?
Oh, yeah. Smells like smoke. Must be a fire nearby. Big deal. You woke me up for that? Good night. Bruh.
But,
What is it now, dog?
well, I'm sorry, Jackal. It's just that, well, I was thinking, if there's a fire nearby, couldn't we go find the fire? We could go sleep by the fire. We'd be warm and cozy, and then you could sleep and I could sleep.
And look, dog, let me explain something to you. Where there is smoke, there is fire, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, where there is fire, you will find man. Man is a hunter, and he goes out hunting, and he hunts wild animals like you and me, and then he builds a fire for his camp. Get it?
Oh. I guess it wouldn't be safe if there's a hunter out there, would it?
No, so forget about it. Dumb dog. Roar. What is it now?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jackal. It's just that I was thinking again, I was thinking, what if some hunter came along and he lit that fire, but then he went away? Then he wouldn't be there, right? But the fire would be there, so we could go be there because the hunter wouldn't be there.
Okay, dog, I'll tell you what. Since you are so interested in that fire, go head on out there. Go check it out. If it is safe, come back and get me, because I will be right here. Sleeping! Now leave me alone.
But...
Good night.
Go out there all by myself? But I never did anything by myself without my friend the Jackal before. I'm scared.
So for the first time in his life, the dog set off on his own. By himself, without his friend the jackal beside him, dog followed the smell of that smoke until he came to a clearing. And there in the clearing, just as he had hoped, was a hot, blazing fire. But, just as Jackal had predicted, seated beside that fire was a hunter. The hunter was sharpening his spear and hardening its point in the flames. And the hunter was eating a juicy leg of meat.
Boy, that fire looks so warm and that meat smells so good. Hunter or no hunter, I've got to get myself closer.
So the dog got down on his belly and he crawled to the edge of the hunter's camp. Huh? Hey. Dog? A dog? You've come out of the wild to my camp in the middle of the night? Why have you come here, dog? What's the problem? Huh? Oh, you're cold, huh? Yeah, I can see your teeth are chattering. Yeah, you're really cold. Well, what can I do for you? Oh, you want to get by my fire and get yourself warm? Ooh, dog breath. Well, it is a big fire. I guess I don't have to keep it all to myself. I don't see any problem in sharing it. Okay, dog, you can lie down by the fire and get yourself warm if you want to. Hey, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. Yuck, dog, don't jump on me and lick me like that. Look, you can lie down by the fire, get yourself warm, and then after that you have to go away. Because you're a wild animal, and I'm a hunter. I'm supposed to hunt wild animals. I don't want anybody to see us together, all right? All right, lie down. So the dog got down by that fire and got himself warm for the first time in many cold nights. And the hunter went back to his meal.
Wonder what he wants now. Oh, there's a good piece, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now what is it, dog? Now what do you want? You want my food? Well, you can't have it. It's my food, and I'm eating it. Now leave me alone. Well, I'm not gonna eat the bones. Would you like the bones? Get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. Ew, yeah, don't jump on me like that. Ugh. Look, dog. Look, you can warm yourself by the fire. You can have some bones, but then after that, you gotta go away. Because you're a wild animal. I'm a hunter. I'm supposed to hunt wild animals. I don't want anybody to see us together, all right? All right. Here's a bone. Well, the dog began to chew and chew and chew on that bone. He made it last a long time. You know how dogs can. And the hunter, full from his meal, warmed by his fire, and tired from his day, began to feel. He's asleep. Oh, well, I guess I better go. I can't bear the thought of going back out there where it's so cold and hungry all the time. He's asleep. He won't notice if I stay here tonight. Oh, yeah, that's what I'll do. Then I'll leave in the morning when it's warmer. So the dog and the hunter slept together by the fire all night long. But early the next morning, they woke up together, too. Huh? Hey. Dog, what are you still doing here? Thought I told you had to go. Now go on. Go. 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 Dog. Look, dog, last night I gave you fire. I gave you bones. If you're going to stay here with me, what can you give me in return, huh? What, you mean you could protect me, guard my camp, keep me safe, that sort of thing? Whoa. That could be kind of handy. That'd be like having a guard dog. Huh. What else could you do for me? What? You mean you could help me track the animals that I'm hunting and point them out to me when you find them? Whoa. I'd be a much better hunter with that kind of help. That'd be kind of like having a hunting dog. Huh. What else could you do for me? Down, no. Yeah, don't jump on me and lick me like that. I think I get the message. You'd be my friend, huh? Well, you know, it is kind of lonely when I go out hunting all by myself. It'd be nice to have a friend along. Okay, dog, it's a deal. I'll give you fire, I'll give you bones. I'll be your friend. If you protect me, you help me to hunt, and you be my friend. Deal? Get down! Ooh, right in the eye. Yuck. Ugh, look, dog. Just remember this first rule of friendship. Just because you like me doesn't mean you lick me. Got it? All right, come on, let's go. Well, from that day on, the dog and the hunter were best friends. And that is, they say, how dog came to be man's best friend. But still to this day, in the wilds of the world, you may hear the dog's former friend calling out at night, "How! How!" And if you speak jackal, you will know that he is saying, "Dog, where are you?" And that is the story of the jackal, the dog, and the hunter.
Thank you, David, for these two beautifully told stories. Our next teller is Gwenda Ledbetter. She has been telling stories for longer than most of us have been breathing. You moms and grandmoms might remember her as the story lady in her red rocking chair at WLOS TV in Asheville. That was just the start of her illustrious award-winning storytelling career. She is one of the founders of the Asheville Storytelling Circle. And today she brings us a tale about a giant and also a fairy tale from Ireland. Here's Miss Gwenda.
I have a story for you, and it's from Scotland, called Molly Whuppie. She fits in with right now, like you don't know what's going to happen next in the world. There's Molly Whuppie to handle anything, including a giant. Once, there was a man and his wife, and they had too many children and not enough bread. So they took the 3 youngest, who were girls, out into the woods and left them there to do the best they could. Well, they ate their bread, and they snuggled up the best they could under a great evergreen, low-hanging branches. In the morning, the girls woke up and whimpered to find that they were still in the woods. They thought maybe a miracle. Molly Whuppie was the youngest. "I'm not staying here tonight," she said. "It's too itchy under that tree. I'm finding us a staying place." And off she took. And she went round one road and then onto another path. She took rocks and put them in the path so she could find her way back. She went on and she went on and she went on. And then she came to a great rock, went round the side of it. There in front of her, it wasn't a house. It was a castle she'd read about one in a book. Oh, there were towers and there were turrets. And there was a huge door that curved at the top, not straight across, So it was big enough for very large people. She found a rock and threw it against the door, and the door opened. And there was the biggest woman she'd ever seen. And the woman looked this way and that way, not seeing anything, started to turn to go back in. And Molly yanked on her dress and she looked down. "Oh, where did you come from? What a little thing you are. What's your name?" "My name's Molly Whuppie. And my sisters and I would like..." "You've got something cooking, haven't you?" "Oh, yes, I do." "Honey, I don't think you ought to come in. My husband's a giant. He kills and eats everything. Of course, you're not much of a mouthful. Please let us in and feed us, and we'll go. We'll do something." All right, go." So she went and got her sisters, and they came back. When they got back, the giant's wife loved to cook. She had pancakes, and she had bacon. She had butter and syrup dripping on the sides, off the plate, almost. And there was fruit, of all kinds. The girls ate until the food was nearly coming out their eyes. And then they heard, and they looked up, and there he was. And he looked around. Somebody not like us is in this room. Molly moved and he looked down. "What's that?" "You'll not harm them, man. They're just 3 lost lasses. And I fed them some breakfast. Now you leave them alone." Sure. So he ate. He ate his breakfast. He ate and ate and ate and ate, because he was a giant. And then he said, "You 3, it's cold out there. You stay in the house where it's warm." Molly cast an eye up at him. She thought, he's not saying to stay because he wants her company. Oh, no. Well, surely we're too small. But she nodded, and the three stayed around. Now he had girls of his own. And it got later and later in the day, and finally it was time to think about going to bed, and he said to his own girls, take those necklaces there, the ones with the pearls and the rubies, and put those on. And he gave Molly and her sisters necklaces of wood. And Molly thought, that means something. They went up to bed, and they all laid down, and soon the others were asleep, but she lay there just listening. And pretty soon she heard him get up, and he moved around down below. And then his great hand came up into the loft, and he moved over the ones that had the diamonds or so, and went on to the ones, Molly and her sisters, that had just the wood. He picked it up, and then he put one down, and his sister didn't even wake up. And then he went and sat down, but Molly knew that wasn't the end of it. And she was very clever. So she said, get up, to her sisters. And they moved a chair over, and the ceiling was low, and they poked a hole with the broom. And one got on one, and they got up and out, and they slid down one roof and another, and they hit the ground running. They ran all night. In the morning, they came to a different part of the country, and there in front of them was a great castle. Oh, much like the giants, but it was different somehow. You felt easy. So they went into the kitchen, thinking that was their place. And the cook heard what Molly had done. She says, Molly, the king has to know about this. This is no man around here has ever done anything like that. Now you go up and tell him. So she went up. The king, as I say, was young. He was sitting on his throne with one leg thrown over an arm, very casual. So you got away from the giant, did you? Yes, I did. Well, you're very clever. What's your name? Molly. Molly, would you like to go back and get a purse? The giant stole it from us, and I'd like to have it back. Would you go back and do that? Not on your life. Well, I tell you what, if you would do that, I would give one of your sisters to my younger brother to wed. You never need worry about her again your whole life. Well, that appealed to Molly, because already, though she was the youngest, she was taking care of the two of them. But all right, she said, but you must give me some time to think about what to do. Right, you go and you get in there and you take that purse, and it's heavy, but you can manage it, I'm pretty sure. So the next morning she got up, and after breakfast, she got a sandwich. You know, the Scottish, aren't they famous for sandwiches? Anyway, off she went. And she went uphill and downhill, and the castle came in sight. And she got up on the hill under a tree and was looking down at the kitchen door. People went in and went out, and she slid down the hill. And when it was open, she slipped into the house and went under a table so she'd be out of the way and not seen. Well, the giant's wife saw her. She went like this, and the giant wife said. And the giant came in, right at his breakfast. He sat down in the chair and was thinking about another snack, he said to his wife. And then he saw something wiggling out of this corner of his eye, with Molly moving from one chair leg to another, you know. And said, we got rats. No, we don't have rats. But what's that? It's some dust. You see, Giant's eyesight isn't all that great. So he gave it up and went out to hunt his food for the day. And Molly was there. And she got food and she took it back to her sisters. And they moved on into the house, up into the loft. When the giant came home, he ate a tremendous supper. And he was always eating, it seemed. Well, it got dark, and Molly said to her sisters, "We're going to poke a hole. Let's slide. We're going to run back to the castle." And that's what they did. Fast. And when they got to the castle, and they went into the kitchen, and the cook heard what they'd done. She said, "You got to tell the king. He'll want to know. Didn't you take? You were supposed to bring something." "Oh, yes," said Molly, "the purse." "Well, I forgot it. It was too much exciting going on." "Well, anyway, go tell him what you did." And so she went, and he was sitting in that chair again, casual like, and she told him of what she'd done. And he said, "Can you go back? It's really important." "Okay," she said. So the next day she went back, and she carried some food, and she went in the kitchen, she hid under the table, and she saw the purse on the table beside the giant's chair. And so when he went up to bed, she eased it off the table, eased it, got it down, and she started for the door. She dropped it, and he heard, and he was after her, and she ran out the door, and he's after her, and he was pointing at her, like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and she's running fast, and he's after her, "Come back here." But she got over the really skinny bridge called One Hair, and she took the purse. The king was glad to get it. Gave his second brother to her second sister to wed. They were fixed. And Molly thought they were due to stay for a good long time for what she'd done, but he says, "Molly Wappy, I want you to go back." "What for?" "Well, the giant's got a horse. It belongs to us. He can't ride. He's too big. If you'd go back and bring that horse." "Oh, Lord," she said. "What will you give me?" "Second brother to your second sister, and you need never worry about her again." That did it. So back she went. She got a sandwich, of course, to carry her across the fields and meadows, and got up on the hill, just looking down at the kitchen. And when somebody left it, she snuck in. Now, the horse wasn't going to be in here. How would she know which horse it was? He said white. Surely there weren't that many white horses in the stable. So when somebody went out, she went out the kitchen door and went to the stable, and there it was. Oh, it was lovely, beautiful horse. And she looked at it, it was tied quite tightly. How could you get it undone? She had to go back in the kitchen. She stole a knife from the kitchen drawer and went back out, and she sawed away, and she had it almost off. She heard himself coming. She plunged the knife through the last bit of that rope, jumped on its back. She rode, and here it came. "Molly Wuppy, whoa, don't you take my horse." She ran. No. She got on the horse and she rode really, really fast. And here comes the giant. And every step he took was like 3 of the horse's steps. And finally, they got to the king's land, and the giant stopped. "Whoa, worth ye, Molly Wuppy, never ye come back again." Oh, she said, "Once more, I'll come to Spain." Well, you know, the Scots, they just know. So king was happy with the horse, but things go in threes, don't they? And he said, Ollie, the giant has a ring. A ring, she said, and you want me to get the ring? Yes, you can do it. You're clever. And I want you to get the ring because it belongs to this family. And what do I get if I bring the ring? I'll let you choose, he said. Very well, she said. And the next morning she took the sandwich from the cook and over the hills and down the vales and up to that special mountain that the hill, it was just above the kitchen door. And she looks down and somebody went out, left it open. And in she went. And the giant was sitting in his easy chair. What kind of chair would hold the giant, right? And his hands were on the armrest, and there was the ring. She crept over to it. The armrest was just in reach. She took hold of the ring. It wouldn't budge. It would not budge. It was so fat. What was she going to do? Butter. She reached into her own bag with the sandwiches and took extra butter that she brought, and she smeared it and smeared it and smeared it on that finger. And all the time he making sounds like that. And she smeared and smeared and smeared, and she pulled the ring. She pulled the ring. She pulled the ring. I've got it. And he did. There she was, caught by the giant. She did have the ring on. What was she going to do? Whoa, worthy Molly Whuppie, I'm going to eat you. No, she said, you won't like me. I don't taste good at all. I'm too mean and stubborn. And his wife said, don't eat her. Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll have you for dessert. You just sit here on the table. Giants just don't have it, do they? She wouldn't go sit on the table, right? The minute he turned his back, she was down one of the legs and out the door. And she had the ring, and she ran like she'd never run in her life. Well, of course, she found out, and here he comes. They also had breathing problems. And she ran, and he ran. And he yelled, whoa, worthy Molly Whuppie. She came to the bridge called One Hair, just big enough for one little girl to get across, and knocked the giant. She zoomed across that bridge. Whoa, worthy Molly Whuppie. He was crying. And she said, almost sorry for him, don't worry, you'll never see me again. She took the ring to the king. He said, I'm so glad to get that. Now you get your choice. What would you like? Well, I tell you what, she said. I'll have you. I'll make a very fine queen. And that is the story of Molly Whuppie. A story called The Bee and the Harp. I found it in the very first time of telling stories. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it so much, that story took me over to Ireland. It is very much an Irish story. Once, there was a widow and she had a son named Jack. Irish Jack, too. They lived together well and happy, though all they had to their name were 3 cows. Well, they had some chickens in the garden. And every Saturday, Jack's mother would take the fiddle, handed down through the family. She'd play it, and they'd dance and sing. Well, hard times came, much as they do come, like they've come now. And it was like the pandemic indeed, because hard time for everyone. The garden didn't grow. The cow got sick, one of them. And Jack's mother said, Jack, you've got to take the brandy cow to town and sell her and bring home something to lift my heart entirely. Never say it twice, mother, said Jack, said he. In the morning he turned out. The brandy cow and off to town they went. And when they got to the hill just above the village, they looked down and there was a great crowd of people outside of the pub, and that was unusual. Wonder what they're looking at, Jack said to the cow. The cow mooed, probably thinking, don't go. But down they went. And Jack squeezed in between two people, and there in the middle was this wee man. Oh. He had on green, which should have given Jack an idea of what he was about, but he didn't. And the wee man looked at Jack. He says, there you are, Jack. He says, how would you like to have these animals? And he set down a bee and the harp, the mouse, and the bomb clock. And he started to pat his foot. The bee started playing the harp, the mouse, and the bomb clock took hold of each other and danced. And I'll bet you've never seen a mouse and a cockroach. That's what the bomb clock is. I bet you've never seen them dance. It was wonderful. Everybody stood around and clapped their hands. They danced too. And then the wee man says to Jack, how about it, Jack? Cow for the animals. Oh, I can't do that. No, I can't. That wouldn't please my mother at all, at all. Oh, well, I tell you what. I'll give you the bee and harp for your cow. You take it home. If your mother doesn't laugh and dance, well then, he didn't finish the sentence because he wasn't about to trade it back. Anyway, so Jack did it. Gave over the cow and he went home with the bee and the harp. When he got home, his mother says, did you sell the cow? Yes, I did, mother. Did you get good value? Yes, mother, I did get good value. And then he put the bee and harp down on the table, and the wee thing starts to play the harp. And it was a sight to see. And he and his mother picked up their heels. They danced all over the house. But then his mother gave herself a shake, and she says, Jack, there's nothing hardly to eat for supper, and you bring home company, right? What are we going to do? You'll have to take the next cow to town tomorrow, the black and white, and sell her and bring home something to lift my heart entirely. Never say it twice, mother, said Jack, says he. In the morning, he turns out the black and white. He goes to town. Oh, you know, yes, there's the little man. And he's got the bum clock, which is the cockroach, and the mouse. And he sets them down and starts to pat his foot. The pots, the pans, the wheels, the reels, Jack and the cow, the men and the women, the boys, the girls. You'd have done that too if you had been there. They all started to dance, and they danced and danced. And when the wee man picked up the animals, they laughed. He turned to Jack and said, how about it, Jack? Shall we trade again? Oh, I can't do that. I can't. Yes, you can, he said. So Jack went home with a mouse in his pocket, and the wee man had the cow. And when his mother said, she was sitting on the porch because there were no more potatoes to peel. And she said, I don't see the cow. I mother. He said, you traded? Yes, I did. You got good money. Mother? Not again. Well, they did. Their dancing went on, but his mother suddenly was sitting down and she was weeping. And she said, how can you do it? Had one cow left. So in the morning he takes that cow and he heads for town. It was was going to sell it. And when he got there, here's the wee man, because he's got one more, the cockroach to sell. And he set the wee thing down, and everybody danced their heads off, right? But then he picks it up, says, Jack, you better have this cockroach. I'll have your cow. If you take home the cockroach, you'll have the whole set. Too much. He did it. He turned over the last cow he had, and he went home with that bun clock cockroach, whatever you want to call it, in his pocket. And his mother was sitting on the porch, and she had no more potatoes. She had no more anything to put on the pot and cook. And she folded her arms and she said, let me see the color of your money, boy. And he says, Mother, and she says, oh, no. She sat down on the steps, covered her head with her apron, and wept. He couldn't stand it, so he went out and sat on a stone in the road. And along down the road came an old woman. Now, in particular, Irish stories particularly, there are little men, and when they come and get everybody in trouble, and then here come the old women, and they straighten it up. She came up. Jack, what in the world are you doing sitting here? Aren't you off at the king's castle? He says anyone can get 3 lass out of the princess who'll get her hand in marriage and half the kingdom. Well, we're a poor country, but it's not bad. If that's true, it's not here it should be. Jack went in and said, goodbye, Mother. I'll see you soon. Good news. And he took his cap and off he went. And he got to the castle. There was a guard standing at a fence, one of those high fences with the top pointed top like that. Well, on several of the points were human heads. Whose heads are those? He said. Well, them's the ones that come and try for the prince's hand and fail. Mighty big crowd. But he sent word another had come. And they had chairs and a golden one for the princess to sit on, and everybody came out. And when the princess saw the little animals, because he brought them, hopping along, she set up a lap. He says, that's one party you won, my lady. And then he set up everything, and the wee things started to do their dance. And the pots and pans, the wheels, Jack and the queen, all began to jump, to dance about inside in, outside out, upside down, all out. And he looked, and the princess was laughing again. He says, there's 2 parts of you won. But then the dancing kept on, and there was no more laughing. And Jack's starting to feel very uneasy around the collar. When all of a sudden, the wee mouse did a fancy turn, swept his tail through the bum clot's mouth, and the wee cockroach started to cough. I don't know if you've ever seen a cockroach cough. I'll bet you not. Well, this one was so funny. Jack threw back his head. The princess laughed. Everybody laughed. And Jack says, that's 3 parts of you won, my lady. I have you all. He sent for his mother. The wedding lasted 9 days and 9 nights. I was there myself. That's how I got the story. And before we left, they gave us robes, broth, slippers of bread, and it came on dancing on my head.
But 2 wonderful fairy tales shared by Gwenda Ledbetter. Now, Sherry Lovett is, in her own words, and let me get this right, a mother, a teacher, a teaching artist, a storyteller, musician, and a compassionate lover of life. What a busy lady! And today she is telling us stories that her own family loves to hear. Now tell me, who could Abby Yo-Yo be? And then a story without a title until the end. Could you think up a good title for this Cherokee story? Miss Sherry, the stage is yours.
Hello, I am excited to share some stories with you today. The first one I want to start with is a family favorite in my home, and it is one that I learned from Pete Seeger, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Once, long ago, there was a little boy who loved to play the ukulele. He went all around town playing his ukulele. But the grown-ups there said, Get out of our way. Can't you see we're busy? Not only that, but the boy's father was a magician. He had a magic wand and he could go zoop, zoop and make things disappear. Problem was, he was a practical joker, always playing tricks on somebody. Like if somebody was doing a hard job of work, like sawing a log, zit, 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 up would step the father, zoop, zoop, and the saw would disappear. Or if somebody was all tired out after a hard day's work and was getting ready to sit down in a nice, comfortable chair, up would step the father, zoop, zoop, and the chair would disappear and they'd fall on their bottom. Or if somebody was getting ready to drink a nice glass of something, up would step the father, zoop, zoop, and the glass would disappear. So they said, You get out of here too, you and your practical jokes. And they made the boy and the father go live on the edge of town. Now in this town, they used to tell stories. Stories about the giants that lived in the old days. Nobody believed the stories, but they told them anyway. They told stories about a giant that was as tall as the trees. A giant named Yo-Yo. Well, one morning, as the sun was rising red up over the hills, a great big shadow came in front of that sun. It was Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo came down over the mountains. He grabbed up one whole sheep, ate it down in one whole bite. He came down closer to the town, and he grabbed up one old cow, ate it down in one whole bite. Near and near came Yo-Yo, and the people cried out, Run for your life! It's Yo-Yo! Well, the boy and his father were just getting up. They'd been out late the night before with some storytellers, I think. The boy looked out the window and says, Father, what's that? His father looked out the window. Oh, good heavens, son. That's Yo-Yo. Oh, if only I could get him to lie down, I could make him disappear. Well, the boy grabbed his father by the hand. The father grabbed his magic wand. The boy grabbed his ukulele. And away they ran right to the feet of Yo-Yo. Now, the people cried out, Run for your lives. Don't go near him. He'll eat you alive. But they went right to the feet of Yo-Yo. And Yo-Yo looked down at those two little figures at his feet. And he raised up his big old claws. Well, he had long fingernails because he never cut them. And he had matted old hair because he never combed it. And he had slobbery old teeth because he never brushed them. And he had stinky old feet because he never washed them. And he raised up his big old claws. And just then, the boy began to play his ukulele. Yo-Yo, Yo-Yo, Well, Yo-Yo had never heard a song about himself before, and a foolish grin spread across his face, and he began to dance. Well, the boy began to play faster. And the giant began to dance faster. And the boy played even faster. And the giant danced even faster. Until he was plumb out of breath, he laid down flat on the ground. Up stepped the father with his magic wand. Zoop, zoop, and Abby Yo-Yo disappeared. All the people came streaming out of their homes. Hooray, he's gone! And they grabbed the boy and the father up on their shoulders and said, come on back to town and bring your old ukulele. We don't care anymore. And they all sang. Abby Yo-Yo, Abby Yo-Yo, Abby Yo-Yo, Abby Yo-Yo, Abby Yo-Yo, Yo-Yo, Abby Yo-Yo. Next story I'd like to share with you comes from the Cherokee tradition. I learned it from Joseph Burchak, who published a book under the same title as the story that I'm going to tell you. But I'm not going to tell you the title yet because you'll figure it out by the end of the story. I also like to share a song with this story that you'll also see why by the end of the story. It's a song to welcome the new day, welcome the sun. And it goes like this. Wendy-ah-ho, Wendy-ah-ho, Wendy-ah, Wendy-ah, ho, 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 hey-ah, hey-ah, ya, ya, ya. And I bet you can sing that song with me. Let's sing it one more time. Wendy-ah-ho, Wendy-ah-ho, Wendy-ah, Wendy-ah, ho, 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 hey-ah, hey-ah, ya, ya, ya. One late fall day, Bear was walking through the forest. I'm Bear. I'm biggest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I'm Bear. I'm strongest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I'm Bear. I'm loudest of all the animals. Yes, I am. I'm Bear. I can do anything. Well, as soon as he said that, he heard a little voice at his feet. Can you really do anything? And he looked down, and there at his feet was a little brown squirrel. I'm Bear. Yes, I can do anything. Can you make the sun not rise tomorrow morning? Well, I've never done that before, but yes, I can. And so Bear turned to the west, where the sun always goes down. He stood up tall and strong and said, Sun, do not come up tomorrow. And just as he said that, the sun began to go down behind those mountains, and he turned that little brown squirrel and says, See, the sun is afraid of me. It is already running away. Little brown squirrel said, But will the sun come up tomorrow morning? No, the sun will not come up tomorrow morning. And then Bear turned in the direction where the sun always used to come up, east. And he sat down on a rock. Boom. And little brown squirrel sat right down beside of him. Boom. And there they sat, waiting to see what was going to happen. Now, as the night went on, Bear began to say something. The sun will not come up. The sun will not come up. But right beside of him, little brown squirrel piped up. The sun's going to rise. Ooh. The sun's going to rise. Ooh. Now, as they sat there, other animals in the forest began to gather around them. Fox padded up. Owl swooped in. Turtle crawled up. Little skunks scurried in. Rabbit hopped up. Coyote trotted up. All kinds of animals gathered around, waiting to see what was going to happen. And as they waited, this is what they heard. The sun will not come up. I bet you could help me with that. The sun will not come up. And little brown squirrel, the sun's gonna rise. Ooh. Bet you could help me with that too. The sun's gonna rise. Ooh. Now, just about the time before the sun always used to rise, Turtle stuck out his long neck. I see a bit of pink in the sky. Well, Owl took a look. Whoo! I believe the sun will rise. But Bear just chanted louder. You can help me. The sun will not come up. The sun will not come up. But right beside him, little brown squirrel piped up. The sun's gonna rise. Ooh! The sun's gonna rise. Ooh! And just then, the sun came up. The bright light of a new day spread across the land. The birds sang their good morning songs, and everybody was happy except, you guessed it, Bear was not happy at all. The happiest of all the animals was, yep, you guessed it, little brown squirrel. Little brown squirrel was so happy he was dancing all around. The sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up. He was so happy that he forgot what his wise granny had taught him when he was younger. She had said, little brown squirrel, it is good to be right, but when someone else is wrong, it is not a good idea to tease them. And little brown squirrel began to tease Bear. Oh, Bear is silly, the sun came up. Oh, Bear's foolish, the sun came up. Bear's stomp. Bear's great big old paw came down on little brown squirrel and pinned him to the earth. And he leaned down with his great big teeth. You're right. The sun did come up. I am foolish, but you will not live to see another sun rise because I, Bear, am going to eat you. Well, little brown squirrel had to think fast. I shouldn't have teased you. I'd like to apologize before you eat me. I can't breathe. If you just lift your paw, I'd take a nice deep breath and apologize before you eat me. Well, Bear wanted an apology. So he lifted his paw. And what do you think little brown squirrel did? He ran as fast as he could right to a pile of rocks, and there was his granny, and she was calling, hurry, little brown squirrel, hurry! You see, they had a burrow underneath there, and little brown squirrel was running, and he was fast, but Bear, he was faster than he looked. And just as little brown squirrel was getting there, Bear reached out his great big paw, and he caught little brown squirrel, and he scratched him from the top of his head to the tip of his tail. But little brown squirrel did get away. And all that winter, he slept curled up next to his granny while those scratches on his back healed. Well, in the spring, little brown squirrel was the first one to come out. And he looked at his back, and where Bear had scratched him, now he had long, pale stripes. He was no longer little brown squirrel. Now he was Chipmunk, the striped one. And since then, Chipmunk's the first one up in the spring, in the morning, climbs to the top of the tallest tree and sings his good morning song. The sun came up, the sun came up, the sun came up. But since then, Bear's the last one up because he doesn't like to hear Chipmunk's song because it reminds him that no one, not even Bear, can do everything. And that is how Chipmunk got his stripes. A Cherokee story.
Wow. Now we know how the little chipmunk got his stripes. And isn't it just like loving grandmothers all over the world to care for the little ones in their families? I imagine you have a grandmother like that too. Well, we've had fun listening to these stories. You might want to think about writing some stories of your own. Perhaps some stories about your experiences at school, maybe about the fun that you and your friends have and what your life might look like when you grow up. It's never too early to start writing stories. The Asheville Storytelling Circle meets on the third Monday of every month, currently online. For the Zoom link, please go to our website, ashevillestorytellingcircle.org. Thanks for joining us for Story, and look for our next show in October. Bye now.